Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the SmashBros AMA, brought to you by The Daily Dot. I, of course, am your host, Ian Double John Barker, and joining me, as always, is Jacob Braille Wolf. Jacob, how are you this evening?
Doing well, man.
Excellent. As am I, because of course we have an excellent guest on the show tonight. Sammy DruggedFox Mohana will be joining us just a little bit later. But first, before we get to the questions, Dot Esports took a little trip down to San Antonio this weekend, where I don't know if you heard, but there was a bit of a Smash tournament going on. And we collected some very interesting comments from some of the top players in the game right now about the future of Smash Brothers in 2016. What do you think is going to happen to Smash in 2016?
It's going to explode.
What do you expect out of Smash in 2016?
Growth. Amazingness. It's so good.
I expect us to keep growing and, more people getting into the game and everyone just getting better.
So, we haven't really peaked yet, and it's like we keep getting bigger, and we're like, okay.
I'm planning to travel a lot.
Right now, we're getting picked up by a lot of, Nintendo's helping us out a lot, and I like that. Also, a lot of teams are coming on into trying to get Smash. So right now, I can only see this going up.
I feel like Smash somehow went from, smaller than FGC to, fourth biggest esport.
This year, I want to go to Gommel, EG, might go to Pound, I'm thinking about it. CEO for sure, Evo. All the main ones, Big House.
What do you expect from Smash in 2016?
It's just going to be arenas everywhere.
I don't think we're going to do arena sellouts or anything like that, but
We're going to get Kanye to play. We're going to get Obama.
Getting on the Evo 2 years in a row is good.
It's going to be like a Taylor Swift concert every time it's Evo.
I expect to see this era of gods to be kind of smeared, and for all the top 15, maybe even 20 players to be able to compete at that level. And so it won't just be the gods anymore. It'll actually be anyone's tournament anytime.
The fact that our game is so old and we still have all this, it's no one's complaining. If it gets bigger, great. If not, it's like this, and that's cool too. But it's definitely gonna get bigger.
You heard it here first, folks. Taylor Swift and Barack Obama will be at Smash events in the coming year. I know that I'm very much looking forward to seeing Tay-Tay in the flesh.
Kind of feel like they're just there for SFAT's fresh haircut.
No question of that. And if they don't show up, you can email Hungrybox at teamliquid.net with your complaints. Kicking off our year in Smash, obviously we're off to a great year so far, having some great guests on the show. And tonight's guest is no exception. Sammy DruggedFox Mohana, the individual who put on quite a show at the HTC Throwdown on Sheik, but recently switched to Falco. He's got a great blog expressing his thoughts, some very technical stuff over there, and believe it or not, an ex-Marvel player. This guy is just a guy that's extremely talented in any game he touches. Sammy, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, we are excited to have you, obviously. For those of you at home who aren't familiar with the format, every week we bring a new guest to the R Smash Brothers subreddit. The mods very graciously put up a thread for us. You ask your favorite questions, upvote your favorites, downvote your least favorites, and every Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we can get our guest on, we ask the questions to our guest live on the air so you can hear them in the flesh. So with that being said, Sammy, are you ready for the hardest hitting questions that the Smash community has to offer you?
Yeah, I have no clue what's going to be asked, but I'm ready.
That's honestly my favorite, is when you don't look at the questions ahead of time. Yeah. Some people cheat. I like to surprise people.
I'm ready for a surprise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with our very first question. Above Average Guy asks, what do you think you have to do to bring your Falco up to the top tier of Falcos, meaning PP, Mango, and Westballs? Also, is it true that you wore the hoodie at G3 because it made you feel like Westballs?
Okay, so I'll start with the last part first. It'll be easier. Short answer is yes. I think so. I got a Smash GG hoodie from when we won the Southern Conference for the TMG, or the Southeastern one, and they gave it to Georgia Tech. Okay, and then I put the hoodie on, and this is the first hoodie I've really worn. And I was like, I can totally see why Westballs wears this. Definitely a Falco thing, so that's why I wear the hoodie.
So you're actually originally from Georgia. Are you a Georgia Tech fan or are you a Bulldogs fan? Because we got a guy on the show right now who has a vested interest in the answer to that question.
Oh, really? I'll play it safe. I don't watch college football, so I'm not going to have too hard an opinion on this.
But you're GT alum, aren't you?
But I am. I did graduate from Georgia Tech. I mean, if I had to choose, I'll choose Georgia Tech, but I don't have a huge... I do it.
To be fair, neither team had a particularly good year in football this year.
I never hear great things about it.
This is the year, man. We got a new coach.
This is the year.
This is the year.
I was pretty sure this was the year.
I think it's always the year.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's
Always the year for the Bulldogs, man.
The Georgia fans and Cubs fans can commiserate on that. Coming on to our next question.
Sorry, did you want me to finish the first part of it?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were already done.
No. So I answered the hoodie part, but I thought the first part was pretty interesting. It's the only reason. He asked about like catching up to the rest of the Falco metagame. I think it's pretty interesting because I don't think there's stuff that the other Falcos do that I don't do, but to be able to play at that level, I have to do something that I did with Sheik, which is essentially solve more situations. So the way I play the game, I have to be able to, like, I can't be put in a situation mid-tournament match and be like, I don't know the exact answer to this. So in friendlies, if we play 20 games, that's not going to matter so much. But if I have to win that 2 out of 3 right now, like, I need to be able to hit all my stuff every time.
Is that I think that's something that we've talked about with players before. One of the most difficult things in being in a long tournament scenario is being comfortable with a character to the point that you know what combo you're going to use, you know how to tech chase, you know how you're going to punish a particular scenario. And frankly, looking at your blog, Portrait in Smash, it seems like you're a very technical player that likes to break down sort of the nitty gritty of things. Is that sort of a barrier for you right now? Is finding that intimate familiarity with Falco that you had with Sheik?
So I have played most characters, Falco included, for like 10 or 11 years now. But I will say in tournament, the intimacy is totally different. There's a different type of intimacy you get when you're playing a new character and you have everything on the line with them, if that makes sense.
So in terms of familiarity, how much do you think, or do you think it's do you think it helps, or do you think it's a detriment to be a multi-character main? You've played Sheik, Marth, and Falco. So
I think it hurts. Which is why when I do play in tournament, I prefer to play only one character if at all possible. I'm actually, even though everyone talks about dual maining, I'm a huge proponent of solo maining because I think even if you watch Armada, who's one of the most successful dual mains right now, I think his Peach is clearly much worse and less clean right now than it was maybe 2 years ago. And I think that's largely related to him trying to play multiple characters.
Yeah, and he's Mewtwo King has also sort of had to divide his time between multiple games. Talk to us a little bit as somebody that has made multiple characters. Talk to us about what it's like to try to even extend that even further into a game that operates completely differently. Is it that big of a stretch?
So I guess it depends a lot on your play style, in my opinion. Take someone like Wizrobe, who I talk to a lot, and he plays all the Smash games, right? I think it hurts him a lot that he plays multiple games because he has a style that revolves around, like, he can do up throw, up air on Sheik on the very first percent it works. He is frame perfect. Like, no other Falcon can do that. And when you play 64 and Smash 4 and PM, like, there's no way that, like, you're going to be able to do that still, right? It's not feasible.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. Obviously, being someone who plays Smash 4, I remember sitting down to the controller the first time after being somebody who's played Melee for a dozen or more years, and feeling like this is like. How do I put this? I guess the best comparison I could say is Melee felt like running the 400-meter dash. Smash 4 felt like trying to run the 100-meter dash on my hands. Like it was that different. I tried to pick up several characters. This is actually at the Archon Team League Challenge when I was in the Team Archon house, and got my ass handed to me pretty roundly.
yeah, I mean, like you look at, you brought up Mewtwo King earlier. He's one of the few people that have spoken to like hand movement on Melee, like versus Smash 4. Because if you remember when he wanted to take a break from Melee, like he was pretty comfortable playing the other Smash games because they are a lot more loose on a controller, on a GameCube controller than Melee, which is fairly tight. and succinct.
Melee is a pretty tight game, and obviously playing Sheik, that's something that you're familiar with, so I can only imagine what it would be like playing characters that have such a tight mechanical feel to them, to jump, for example, from Falco and Sheik to I don't know, like Pikachu, who's also a very tight character in Smash 4, but not in the same way that Melee is. Talk to us a little bit, actually. This is something I spent a lot of time looking at today. The transition from Sheik to Falco. First of all, what was your motivation behind it? And second of all, what have you gained by switching to Falco that you didn't have when you played Sheik? Because you were an extremely potent Sheik.
Okay, well, this is a funny question, but the long story short is that I don't consider myself a very good tournament player. Like, I still suffer, like, my tournament play suffers drastically compared to my friendlies play. And when it comes to something where, I mean, everyone knows I tech chase with Sheik, like, it's very frustrating to go to a tournament and everything I've practiced to go out the window. So that's my personal motivation. I don't think tech chasing is impossible or anything, but I think I'm an awful tournament player. So, like, putting a bad tournament player in a situation where you have to execute one of the hardest things to do in the entire game just doesn't make sense.
You watched you at HTC Throwdown, right? I mean, you've seen you play, right?
I've seen it. Oh, I've seen it.
All right.
I'll just say anyone who's seen me play friendlies knows it's a huge difference. I'll just say I've played some people who I did play at HTC. I've played them in friendlies, and it looked like a very different set in my favor.
Do you think like nerves have something to do with that? Hungrybox was fairly outspoken about having a sports psychologist, like his best friend with him for DreamHack when he beat Armada. Do you think that nerves are a little bit part of your reason you suffer in tournament play compared to friendlies?
So a long time ago, I would say nerves specifically were an issue. Nowadays, I find that I think of tournament almost in terms of stress factor. So let's say I'm playing friendlies, but I'm very tired that day. My goal would still be able to play at my best level even while tired, right? So that's one stress factor. But tournament brings a whole new set of stress factors. There's pressure, there's the crowd, there's my own expectations, there's maybe seeing new things I haven't seen before. And I'd say that the stress factors that are caused from tournament play are on a totally different level than the stress factors I've been accustomed to in friendlies.
And yet you seem like such a calm guy. I mean, just sitting right here in front of us, I would not peg you for someone who lets that sort of thing rattle them. What is it about your demeanor that causes that to happen?
I'm not exactly sure. And the sports psychologist comment is something that would be appealing to me. Like, I would love to really sit down. Like, after I played so this is what everyone references as my switch to Falco set, where I lost to Silent Wolf at Drop Zone. I don't know if you guys saw that. Mm-hmm. But essentially, I couldn't tech chase. He played really well. It was a tough set. And afterwards, I was like, all right, I'm either quitting Sheik or finding sports psychology books, because those are the only two solutions at this moment. So yeah, I switched to Falco, and to answer what you said about why Falco is easier, long story short, executing in tournament, executing pure tech skill isn't very difficult. Something like tech chasing is not purely technical. Something like Falco, it's like, I don't have to tech chase. Once I get my hit, I just combo them. It's easy. Like, yeah. So that's the long story. Sure.
There's a reason Spaceys have been at the top of the ladder for quite some time.
Seems like you can get away with things with Spaceys a lot more too.
Probably, I feel like more Fox than Falco, because Falco being a little bit slower, it's easier to punish him. If he messes up one of those combos.
The recoveries though are like probably really nice compared to some of the other characters. They have two of them, and one of them can be tilted in any direction and go there.
Oh, plus the side B can be shorted, so you can mix up your
I think
makes them harder to edge guard. What was that?
I think it has 4 shortened lengths or something. Like, there's so many different.
God, it's ridiculous.
And even on something like Battlefield, where I'm sure you guys are familiar, if you try to side B at the Battlefield edge from too low, you'll just sneak under it.
Yes.
Unlike like Final Destination. But if you do shorten it, then you can actually grab it from below the edge. So you can even sweet spot on Battlefield using your short. stuff like that.
That's one of those mechanics that I miss from Melee when playing Smash 4, because like Smash 4, it's very easy to recover. Like with a Pikachu quick attack, if you hit a certain part on the stage, you like lap up.
Certainly, yeah. they're very generous with the sweet, because being a guy who plays King DDD, I do his up B, and I'm literally just sticks me to the side of the level and just plasters me against it until he's grabbing the ledge.
I think that's like the complaints why people are like, oh, Smash 4 is like, so much easier, but like
there are things they're two very different games. I think we can all agree on that. Well, I don't want to spend too much time on the first question, but I appreciate your insight. It's funny that you brought up switching from Sheik, because I think a lot of people, and I think this question was sort of looking to you as sort of maybe the guy that was going to make Sheik relevant again. Shadow Light Master actually wants to know, do you think Sheik can win a super major? Do you ever plan to bring her back, or just keep her as a pocket character?
So first of all, there's zero doubt in my mind, 0% chance that she cannot win a major. She absolutely can. I don't think anyone should be able to deny that. She's amazing. But do I plan to bring her back? So this is funny. Historically, I was a Fox Falco main, and then at the beginning of 2015, I was like, I'm going to try switching to Sheik because my hands hurt with Fox. Mm-hmm. And people at the time were like, oh, you're not just going to be able to pick up Sheik and do well. And, within 8 months, I already got top 8 at a super major and whatever. So it's like, I don't have very much character loyalty, I'll say. It's more like, I think all the characters are really amazing in the game. If I do plan to bring her back, it'll be because I feel like playing her, not because I think it's my best shot or something.
Do you think that switching to Spaceys was easier for you because of your playstyle? Obviously, you're known for tech chasing, punishing. You like to make take the aggressive option when you're playing as somebody. And Falco and Fox are both just terrifying. Because at any given moment you can punish them. They can use their myriad movement options to check chase you. I mean, was that a part of what made the transition so easy from the Spaceys to Sheik and then back again?
I'd say that's part of it. It was definitely easy in relation to, I think what we just talked about, where we said, you guys said Spaceys might seem a little easier in the metagame. I think they used to be the hard characters because we weren't all comfortable enough with our tech skill. But once you get past the entire execution barrier, I think Spaceys are way easier in tournament because it's a matter of being able to execute. And that's not too hard when we've all been playing this game since God knows how long.
Yeah, after a while, certain things that look extremely difficult, I'm sure, become much easier.
Yeah, relatively easy.
Yeah, kind of expanding. Do you think there is a Sheik that could really pull that off? I think in my opinion, the one is probably Shroomed, but it seems like he has a long way to go. Obviously, he's top 20.
Shroomed always seems to get close. You always feel like maybe this is going to be the tournament that Shroomed makes it happen, and then just something goes, he runs into the wrong matchup, something like that. So yeah.
I think obviously it's either Shroomed or Plup. I think Plup has a little bit better of a shot right now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Plup does work. I mean, Shroom's. I'm constantly impressed with Shroom, though. Don't get me wrong. I think his playstyle is very not. My Sheik is pushing the metagame. His was sort of not at the time, but I think he's drastically changed that. He's changing how he plays. He has a lot better movement. He's been shield dropping constantly. He's definitely moving Sheik forward as well.
He's definitely one of those sort of, well, you as well. You're sort of the new guard of Smash players, aren't you? The guys that rapidly adopt the new tech, the shield dropping, things like that, and adapt to the new meta quickly.
God, it's been so great, the past 2015 and into 2014 to see so many players just take a rise. Seeing SFAT, who's been a little bit of a shaky player, seeing him place that high at Genesis was so incredible for this game, because it means there's still talent that isn't a god or a Leffen that is coming up.
Absolutely,
so.
Yeah. A lot of people talking about how that god term may not be a thing anymore. SFAT actually mentioning that during our interview. And actually, speaking of people falling, the gods sort of becoming vulnerable, things like that. I swear I'm very smart, or I'm sorry, I swear I'm smart. Wants to know, has your dramatic increase in global rank changed your attitude about the game?
Not at all, honestly. I guess people might call it conceited, but I already thought I was good at the game before I got ranked higher. It's just rank is just a matter of going to tournaments and placing well, right? It's not like your rank is an exact 1-to-1 one-to-one like copy of your skill at the game, right? So my perspective on the game hasn't really changed. It's just my perspective about tournament play has changed, maybe.
This is the third question we've had in the past few AMAs about Meom ranks, and
That's true.
I will say we've gotten the same answer every time.
You
It's
think
like
people are
it's
reading
like-
those? People put a lot of stock in those Meom rankings.
I mean, I feel like the fan base
Yeah.
puts a good bit of stock in the Meom ranking, and the thing is with Smash right now, because it's kind of on the up and up in terms of popularity, it seems like a lot of people are using Meom rankings, and Smashboards isn't nearly as relevant, or Smashboards is ranking. But like it seems like a lot of people are using Meom as like a dictionary almost of like who is good in Smash. Let me look at the Meom ranking. So like it seems like the players are kind of just like, but but the fan base seems to take it seriously.
Yeah, that's actually my follow-up question to you. When you saw your Meom ranking and you were in the top 20 of all players in the world, what was your initial reaction?
I'll be honest, my reaction was, going into it, I was almost positive I'd be top 20 just based on results.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, I was like, I guess my first thought was actually that I feel like people don't really look at results that much. I think I was a little underranked, but I mean, I'm sure most people think that. I'm specifically talking about the fact that I'm sure you guys, I don't know if you guys know, but Tipped Off happened and I won Tipped Off 11,
Right.
which was a huge tournament, but it was the same weekend as Smash Summit, which I narrowly didn't get into. And I constantly had this feeling where if I got to the summit and beat one good player, just one, like Shroomed or Axe or something, my rank would have shot up. But instead, I went to Tipped Off, beat like 10 good players, all like top 50 ranks, and none of that mattered at all because it was like, it's about exposure, right?
Sure,
like it doesn't matter that I dropped 3 games in a total of like 12 sets, beating Ice, Moon, Javi, Professor Pro, none. That doesn't matter. If I went to Smash Summit and beat Shroom 3-2 in one set, the whole world's going to explode.
The lens of the public is very focused in specific places on specific weekends. Isn't
Well, I mean,
it?
just look at the way that like those rankings are set up, though. It's like, what did this guy get at Evo? What did this guy get at CEO? What
Sure.
did this guy get at DreamHack? Like, if you're not at those tournaments, it's just kind of like, unless you're a god, I will say, like, Mewtwo King got kind of like slided there because he's in god status. He didn't go to as many tournaments as most everybody else.
I mean, missed Evo for goodness sake.
Yeah, exactly. So like he kind of just got the ranking, whatever. But it was like if you didn't show up to the Super Major, sorry. Like,
We need Nintendo, if you're listening, a formalized circuit of Smash events would be pretty neat. Am I wrong, Sammy? I mean, that would be pretty cool, would it not?
It'd definitely be really cool. I'd say they have to do it well, though, because Smash is at a point where, so I don't know if you guys remember, but, there's a point where we were begging for like an MLG circuit or something. MLG comes back around. They made some mistakes with how they ran the tournament, and a lot of Smashers are like, we're so big now, we don't need a badly run series.
Yeah.
We have so much. But if a Nintendo-sponsored circuit where they did everything really well would be amazing for the game.
I mean, they already dumped so much money into like a lot of the tournaments. You see their logo all over the place. They dumped money into Genesis. I'm sure they're dumping money into Evo, which is why Poken's there.
How was watching it on the stream? Genesis looked incredible. What was it like to be there as a player? And you did quite well at Genesis, did you not?
I got 13th at Genesis, which I laugh about because everyone was like, "Oh, first major with Falco, you're gonna do terrible." I actually beat 2 people who I'd lost to with Sheik. I beat MacD and Silent Wolf. Both of them 3-1, actually. So, I mean, pretty solid. But being at Genesis was exciting, but it was incredibly busy as a player. So we know the top players skipped round 1 pools, and this was an issue of controversy, right? Everyone made a fuss about it, but I had to skip round 1 pools. I played in like 6 different crew battles. I played all of doubles and my singles matches. Like, I was at the venue. I didn't leave the venue, and I sat there waiting for them to call my matches. That was it. It was such a busy tournament, but they ran it effectively. We finished in good time. It was a fun tournament. 6 matches. Everything got recorded.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, I remember going to the Big House 4, and my hotel room was pretty much just the place where I collapsed for about 4 hours a night until the tournament was over. And that was just reporting the stupid thing. You're talking about switching to Falco. For Lulz wants to know, did you switch to Falco because you feel like Sheik is limited in some way, or do you really enjoy playing Falco more? What do you think top Falcos could do better?
That's a cool question. The only way I think Sheik is limited in terms of why I quit her is because she's a hard character to play in tournament. I personally think Sheik and Captain Falcon are the two hardest characters to play in today's metagame if you intend to play them in an optimal fashion. You know, if you're just going to forward tilt, Sheik's not that hard. If you're going to try to perfectly tech chase, react to everything, react to SDI on your combos, Sheik's suddenly pretty hard. At this exact moment, I enjoy playing Falco a lot more because I don't have to worry about any of that at all. What could top Falcos do better? People are going to laugh at me when I say this, but you could tech chase with Falco. That's a big one. Falco's tech chasing is actually pretty good, especially on platforms. People haven't optimized this platform punish game at all. People's shield pressure is pretty bad with Falco, but it hasn't mattered because people's defense against the shield pressure hasn't caught up yet. So we're at this point where, like, you know, PP or West balls aren't doing the best shield pressure, but, you know, like, the people defending against it aren't doing the best job defending against it. So it hasn't mattered yet. But, you know, I think by the end of 2016, it will matter, and people are going to have to do better pressure options.
Would you say that Falco is your shining star? Wink, wink.
Is that a reference to the death of Earth, Wind, and Fire's lead singer? Because that's important.
No, that was a reference to him doing shines all over the place, man. Falco is a very shiny character.
It just also happened to be an Earth, Wind, and Fire reference. Fair enough. So moving on to our next question. So there's nothing at all that the top Falcos could do better. They're just in a better position in the meta right now because of their shield pressure.
Well, I meant they could do their shield pressure, but I think their pressure could be significantly improved.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I'm saying that it hasn't mattered yet because the defensive metagame hasn't caught up, but
sure,
it will matter soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could tech chase a lot better. There's a lot of things like that.
The king of tech chasing believes that people could tech chase better.
If you're watching this, PPMD, please come back. Falco needs you.
Oh yeah, I definitely want PP to main Falco. I do not want him to main Marth. I want the Falco back.
You and everybody else, I think. Absolutely. Going on to our next question, The Flying wants to know, what makes Falco OP in your mind, and why do we generally see relatively poor placings from Falco mains outside of West Balls and Mango?
What makes him OP? So I think the tournament thing is very relevant. I think he's, if you can execute well, he has a lot of advantages in tournament. Like your combos, like if I drop a combo with Sheik, I get 0 to death by auto and it gets put on Reddit. If I drop a combo with Falco, I'm probably cornering them and I'm going to kill them in like 5 seconds anyway. And that's like pretty cool, right? Like it's like the leeway. As long as you don't mess up at the edge, you can pretty much mess up wherever you want with Falco, and it's like sort of okay. You just can't mess up. Yeah, that's a no-no.
What is your thoughts on Mango kind of prioritizing Fox recently? Just segue of that question.
Okay, so I think Mango does this thing where I think his Falco is better than his Fox and overall more solid, but when he's really feeling himself on Fox, he can sort of go ham in a way that he can't with Falco. So what happens is, he's playing Falco, and then because he doesn't he sort of goes for reads with Falco instead of just doing the right thing sometimes. He'll get like a loss to axe or something, which is what happened at Genesis. Then he's like, man, screw Falco. I'm going to go Fox. Then, he gets this train of momentum. He builds up. He beats all these people in top 8. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to play Fox. I'm going to play Fox.
Those jump off stages where he goes down and just downs them off stage. And he did it 3 times in a row.
And spikes people and things like that.
Dude, you are out of this world.
When he's good, he's good, yeah.
He's sick. But yeah, he just goes Fox, feels it. 1 or 2 months later, his Fox starts losing again because, ultimately, I don't think he plays a lot of matchups with Fox. He sort of just does his thing. So then he's like, all right, I got to go back to Falco. Plays really good with Falco for a while, but then he can't attack exactly how he wants to, and it's just this, endless loop.
We see a lot of people not necessarily write off Falco. Obviously, Falco is an extremely strong character, but favoring Fox instead because, similar execution, similar feel to the characters, things like that. Do you think there's an advantage for Falco because people are so accustomed to the Fox matchup and the Falco matchup plays just different enough to give you to give you more options, to give you more opportunities to get in on people?
I guess there was a point where I'd say no a little while ago where I think people were actually pretty good versus Falco relative to the metagame. But as Fox has become more talked about, he's the best or whatever, which I don't necessarily agree with. But yeah, I definitely think people are worse versus Falco now than they are versus Fox by a notable margin. Everyone that I played at Genesis with Falco, barring Hungrybox, who is very good versus Falco, everyone else, when I beat them, I was just like, man, when I played Sheik, it felt like, you knew so much about this. Now that I'm playing Falco, it feels like you're missing all these, things about the matchup. Even though they're really smart players, it doesn't matter. There were so many gaps in knowledge about Falco that made it easy. Notably, DI. There was not a single player I played at Genesis who DI'd Falco combos well, and that was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up because you see the Fox setups and of the jab up smash, the up throw up air, things like that, the stage spike or the shine spike edge guards, things like that. That you see that coming and you could sort of prepare it. It's hard to dodge, I'm sure, unless you're a professional player and you're used to it. But I can imagine that Falco's combos, Falco's setups feel just different enough that you find yourself maybe DIing for the other spacey, and suddenly you're like, well, I guess that's another stock gone.
Yeah, I think people's defense is definitely better versus Fox right now. No question about that.
There's actually a story about Roger Federer, a professional tennis player, that he used to have an extremely weak backhand, and then eventually people served it to his backhand enough that it just became strong. I feel like that's sort of, in terms of the meta, that's sort of what happened with Fox. Is everybody was using Fox because he's so fast, and eventually you, quote-unquote, get good and learn how to deal with the character.
I definitely think in that it has a lot to do with the latter half of the year Armada playing Fox a lot more.
That switch was certainly a big moment for
Fox
player. Well, and for everybody in the bracket, because if you needed to, if you were getting into the top part of the bracket, you were going to have to fight Armada eventually. And now that he had a Fox, well, it's time to learn that matchup.
Yeah, no, you got more than just Peach to worry about now.
Not that it's worked for a ton of people against Armada.
No.
Sammy, are you gonna be the guy to take him down? Are you the guy that's gonna take down Armada this year? Because someone has to.
All I have to say about that is Armada gets pretty lucky that he dodges me every tournament.
Armada, if you'd like to come on the show and rebut those comments, send an email to jacobwolf@thedailydot.com. Going on to our next question. Tetranox wants to know, which god's playstyle do you think, if you adapted it and merged it with your own, would give you the best results? Also, what do you think is the next step to break into the top 10?
That's pretty interesting. So I guess there's two approaches I could take to it. One would be, I think I play the most similarly to Armada, but he's better at it than I am in tournament. So I actually think combining that, even though it's the same, would actually be pretty effective. Then there's the flip side where, combining the exact opposite playstyle would be very beneficial. So, combining something like Mango's playstyle might be pretty useful. Next step to break into top 10. It's just a matter of actually going to the tournaments and competing. In a matter of 8 months, I went up to rank 18. It's just I have to go to tournaments constantly.
That makes sense. All right, well,
I was expecting PPMD.
Yeah, I was expecting some hidden tech or cool. some hidden secret that needs to happen, but practice is as good as answer as any.
There's no tricks here.
Just straight up skill, right? Going on to our next question. Berserker T wants to know, if you had to choose between silverware or losing access to any sort of pillows for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Meaning I lost all silverware. Or
you either get silverware or pillows. You cannot have both.
Does pillows include Duna?
That's a good one. And does silverware include chopsticks? I'm not sure.
We'll say utensils, things that are used to eat food.
I think I could give up pillows.
Rip Duna.
You could give up pillows. Would you
No,
then
I'm
sleep on silverware? That's my next question.
I would definitely talk to Sleepy and ask him to borrow some tuna.
And if not, you could boil some pasta and sleep on that. It's pretty soft once it's cooked. Anyway, moving on to our next question. I'm going to assume that this is Reverb. Reverb wants to know of all the many characters you've used in tournaments, singles or doubles, which is the most fun? Which do you think gives you the best results?
That's a hard one. Fox is the most fun. Fox is the most fun. There's nothing else to say about that. Fox can do anything. He's so fun. You can go in. You can just do what you want. Go ahead.
And that's the question I was going to ask earlier. Is you're making the switch from Sheik to a Spacey? Why Falco instead of Fox?
Just my hands. That is
just
the
your
only
hands.
reason. If my hands didn't hurt, I would play Fox. Period. No questions asked. I still think my peak Fox level was roughly equal or better than my peak Sheik level, but the difference is with Sheik, I went to tournaments for a year, nationals constantly. With Fox, I didn't travel at all. So that's like a huge experience gap. Sheik has an advantage in. Which gives me the best results? Sheik, obviously, right? There's no questions there, but it doesn't have to be Sheik. I think any character would do the same pretty much.
And you get to spend the entire year proving that Falco is a better option than Sheik.
Unless I get bored of Falco. that's the one caveat.
Then it's time to bust out the Pichu, right?
Pichu's coming out next.
Fox is like the melee guilty pleasure. It's like he's so fun to play and like he's so good, but he just hurts your hands.
There's a lot of inputs going on to pilot a Fox successfully. Okay. Well, you know what? Prove us wrong. Prove that Falco is the superior option, and we will eagerly await the result. Next question comes from Night Cyper, who wants to know what do you bring to Falco that others don't? Is it optimal decision making?
Okay. This sort of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. My shield pressure is going to be way better with Falco, safer and more consistent. My tech chasing is going to be way better with Falco. If I down air you onto a platform, you are going to be dead. There's no questions there. I'm going to ledge dash with Falco, which is, I don't know why people don't do it more. Westball does it sometimes, Mango does it sometimes. I'm going to do it every time eventually. There's a lot of stuff. I also think consistent edge guard. Falco players are very inconsistent at edge guarding, I think. That's a big one.
What is it about? Why? I guess is the next question. Why are they inconsistent with edge guarding?
In the case of, so it depends. It goes from player to player, right? There's only two Falcos to talk about, really. Westballs and Mango, PP sometimes. With Mango, I feel like he doesn't want to dedicate himself to consistent decision making. He wants to do whatever he wants to do, right? But edge guarding is literally the opposite of that. It's inherently methodical. You're giving up free edge guards by not doing the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's boring, I have fun in the neutral game. I have fun when I'm comboing them. When I get them off the stage, I'm going to kill them and go to the next stock. There's no debate there for me. And then for Westballs, I'm not sure. I just feel like he's a player where, if you had to, chart his statistics or something, his strengths, it's he has huge strengths and huge weaknesses. So I just feel like edge guarding is not something he sat down and really tried to iron out. But I'm sure as soon as he does, he'll be good at it.
He's pretty good already. I didn't know if you were aware.
He's one of those players that once he gets motivated to certain improvement, I feel like, and if he does that in 2016, Westballs could be the next best guy.
Yeah,
top
that's
6.
more what I was saying. It's if he dedicates himself to any particular aspect, he'll get really good. He'll get beyond good at it.
I can see that.
So he's already incredible, and just the little extra oomph seems like
it feels like
great.
a lot of players are sort of reaching that point, yourself included. Guys like Silent Wolf, for example, Pew Pew is even starting to come into his own. We talked about Shroomed a little bit earlier, who seems to always be punching at that top 8. It seems like a lot of guys are in a position, and that's sort of the great thing about professional Melee, isn't it, right now? That there are a lot of guys out there where you're sitting down and you're saying, you know what? I can do this. I can do this as long as I work on be it my tech chasing, figure out my edge guards, understanding a particular matchup, whatever it may be. I can make that push. Is that the reason that people say that the gods are no longer the gods? Because guys like you are coming out of the woodwork and saying, you know what, I can beat that guy.
I definitely think the gods thing is not a thing anymore. If you look back, like back when the gods thing was this crazy thing where, this guy's a god, he's untouchable. They almost had this sort of like, it was really magical at the time where like they just were so much more aware of every aspect of the game that it wasn't a competition. Mm-hmm. But now that we are aware of all these facets of the game, all the nuances, like a lot of the times they can't just assume they're better than you. I think that's the biggest difference. They used to take Mango or Armada, they used to be able to make their decisions knowing that they were the better player, knowing that they knew more than you. Now, like when I beat Mango at HGC, he tried to play thinking like, I'm thinking ahead, DruggedFox isn't going to think of this, and then he gets nared in the face, and he's like, oh, well, let me try again, and then I just wave dash back, and he whiffs something, and he's like, what happened? There's no magic anymore, is what I'm saying. We understand the game sufficiently.
I think Leffen broke that barrier, and now there's just a bunch more people coming in the door. Shout outs to Ice and SFAT for literally wow, at Genesis that was great.
That was a great tournament. Yeah, it seems like for a little while there were people who had the playbook, who understood, this is the matchup, this is the tech, this is what it takes, and now it's at a point where people are. I was looking at your blog beforehand, and you've got literally frame data and plus or minus on shield sitting on your blog, and this is stuff that it feels like now that that Melee has moved from the church community centers and from the more secluded offline existence into the fold. Everybody's reading the same playbook. They just need to apply it, don't they?
Absolutely. I think the 20XX hack pack is a huge part of that. We now have resources for practicing on our own. I've always wanted to test things. It was unreasonable to test them, 6-7 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now I go over there, I turn on my Wii, I go into frame by frame mode. I'm like, I'm going to figure out exactly how this works. And I do.
So you fall into the camp, because we've had several different kinds of smashers on here. You're more of the methodical, tech-based sort of frame data kind of player. Would you say that's fair?
I'd say that's currently the case. I don't think it used to be the case, but that's almost because I didn't have a choice, I was a very intuitive, do what I think is right player. But now, even if you are the intuitive type who plays very naturally and field-based, you have the information in front of you, there's no reason not to use that.
Yeah, if there's anything you can do to gain a competitive advantage, why wouldn't you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can still play intuitively and do what you want, but, knowing Falco Shine is +3 on shield, or knowing that you can shield grab Falco's jab every time he does it, these are facts. There's no intuition needed to know every time Westfall's jabs my shield, I'm going to try to grab him.
Absolutely. Well, want to keep the questions coming, because we've got some great ones here tonight. And I have to apologize to the realist hoe bitch. I accidentally stole one of your questions earlier in the show, so my apologies. But the realist hoe bitch wants to know, will you still play Sheik or Marth in tournament? I assume is sort of like a pocket pick or a secondary.
Okay. Sheik or Marth in tournament? Oh, again, if I feel like it. I'm in no rush to, I guess most people play their best choice. I'm just playing the choice that I think I'm going to have fun with, really. Right now I'm having fun with Falco. I'm not going to play Sheik or Marth for a while. Next time I have fun with Falcon, I'll play Falcon. If I ever feel like playing Sheik, I'll go back and play Sheik. Same with Marth.
Well, there you go. You just play whatever you want, and as long as you find success with it.
Seems like it's that way with a lot of people that main, I would say the people who main 3 characters are like that. So if you look at PP and Mewtwo King as well as yourself,
that's true. But there's sort of some matchup consideration in
that
there,
is true,
isn't it? Yeah. I mean, Marth on FD, obviously Mewtwo King showed us that's a combination that works pretty frequently.
Yeah. Dude, the European chain grab system on FD is just amazing, and you can do it with Fox too. You can just continually chain grab him. You saw Ice doing it at Genesis. He just kept picking people, and it's only the Europeans do that. I want to see an American Fox do it.
What goes through your mind when that happens to you? When you get chain grabbed, when you get stuck in one of these things? Because I've always wondered, you're sitting there, you've got your tournament life on the line, and somebody does something you cannot avoid to you. What goes through your brain?
I mean, nothing at all. I know exactly what my best options are to avoid it, and I'm going to do them. And if he kills me, I mean, kudos to him. But, if I do that exact DI that's really hard to cover and he misses it, I mean, I'm going to take that to the bank.
I feel like that's like a good question to ask people right after they've played Wobbles Nintendo.
Oh my Lord.
And chew that. Just like, what did you think?
Take your hands out, you just go like this.
Well, what did you think when you got wobbled?
Well, we saw that GIF of Mewtwo King getting wobbled, and you could just see just the hopelessness on his face. I felt so bad for the guy. Anyway, moving on, we've got our next question from the Invisible Warframe, who wants to know, let's say you have only 30 minutes a day to practice anything you want. What do you practice?
I'd say it's very character dependent. With Sheik, I practice a very specific set of things. I practice, actually, I'll say this. With every character, I practice ledge dashing. Ledge dashing is so important. I practice a lot of moving after my aerials, being able to dash on the first frame possible. I practice my platform movement with most characters. I guess there are certain things that I think are absolutely key, and they generally involve being able to move the way I want to.
Do you put a lot of practice time into like recovering now that you're playing a lot of Falco?
I'd say recovering is something I more get through. Okay, I will say this. I sort of throw it into my routine. So, for example, let's say I kill a CPU. I'll jump off the stage while they're respawning to a certain part and try to hit the exact side B shorten I need. And then while he's respawning, I'll hit the side B shorten, ledge dash back on, and then go back to my routine. So it's something I like throw in there, if that makes sense.
A stark contrast from the West Balls method, where whenever your opponent is off stage, you just practice your multi-shines.
Oh yeah, see, that's exactly the opposite.
Yeah,
It feels like the one thing that Smash has had for a very long time, unlike League of Legends, is like almost like a sandbox.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
because I mean that's a big complaint with League of Legends players. I want to be able to practice this scenario every damn time, and you can kind of get away with it in training mode in Melee and the other
Smash games. It's kind of funny because Melee players have always wanted a sandbox because relative to fighting games, we don't have a good training mode.
that's true.
Yeah. So then it's sort of funny saying, you play Marvel or Street Fighter, they go to Melee, they're like, why can't I practice anything? Look at a League player, they play Melee, they go back to League, they're like, I wish I could practice CSing. But like, you can't.
You gotta play more. Just get good, scrub.
Sit in a custom game against a bot and just try to farm.
Just farm forever. Farm. new meaning to the word, to the term farming simulator 2016. Moving on to our next question. What is with the names tonight? Slow Down Brother Man wants to know, would you be willing to have a large family in the future and have a future crew battle against my future large family?
Well, slow down, brother man. I hope his family can take me on by myself. That's all I got to say about that.
100-man melee mode, his family versus you.
That is a big family. That is a very big family.
Not out of the question, Ian.
Moving on to our next question, and one of my favorite returning names, The Jerks Is Us, wants to know which players give you the most trouble at the moment?
Hungrybox. I don't even need to list any other player. Hungrybox is the answer.
What is it that he does that makes him so difficult?
So this happened in the past, and I think it's happening now, where there's this period where, people are good enough versus Puff that we can beat Hungrybox, even though there's no other Puff even close to as good as him. But there comes this period where Hungrybox starts innovating and figuring stuff out. And once he's got that stuff figured out, we don't get a chance to practice versus anyone who can do that. So what inevitably happens is we go into a tournament and we play against the stuff we haven't practiced against. He beats us, one tournament set's not enough to learn all of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's just this huge experience gap where Hungrybox knows so much more about Puff versus Fox or Puff versus Falco or Puff versus Sheik, where he is by far the hardest opponent for me because it helps also that punish game is one of my strongest points, and you don't have a good punish game versus Jigglypuff for the most part. So
Your punish against Jigglypuff is killing her.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the lack of being able to convert my hits into large combos means that I have to outplay him in significantly more neutral interactions. While with him, he only has to outplay me once or twice. And when I have zero Puff practice that's even remotely as good as Hungrybox, like all I get is my tournament sets.
You just gotta hook up with Prince Abu. Go see what Prince Abu is up to.
I mean, I actually have been talking to Abu a bit, and he's just like, it's unfair how much better Hungrybox is at Jigglypuff than everyone else. It's just not reasonable.
The true question is, did you get as salty as the community on Reddit and SmashBoards when he did the ledge camping at EVO?
I'll be honest, we actually have... I have a long history of playing Puff players who do the camping strategy, I'll say a good bit better than Hungrybox does, because that was Hungrybox's, first or second time pulling it out in tournament. So for Armada, Hungrybox, that was their first time interacting in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't salty at all because, growing up playing Melee in tournaments and stuff, that's something you encounter just normally.
Yeah.
Just Hungrybox never did it.
And Hungrybox has admitted afterwards that strategy did not work for him. I mean, he fully admitted, that accomplished nothing. And you definitely saw him go to something he sort of evolved
Just
lately.
ran out of time.
He did run out of time, but he also, when he got the rematch with Armada in the grand final, he went to more of an aggressive neutral game, which is another thing that he's been working on. Because there was a time when if Hungrybox was down a stock, when it was 1-2 and the rest was off the table, he sort of just kept bearing and sort of hope for the best, and now he's certainly switched up his neutral game quite a bit more.
His DreamHack playstyle was really impressive. I can't remember what he called it. He said to us that
Did he call
named it something.
Did he?
Yeah, he named
was that
he-
planking? Didn't?
No.
Somebody else called the bearing planking.
Armada called it.
That's
Oh
what
yeah,
it was,
it was Armada that called it planking. Yeah, that was impressive. He's like you said, there's not any puffs, so it's kind of surprising and fun to watch Hungrybox because he just.
That was actually another thing I wanted to bring up,
Pull
because
stuff out.
I think one of the most disruptive things about Hungrybox, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be that there's no other puffs. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Prince Abu occasionally cracks in the top 16, gives some people some troubles, but why spend a great deal of your practice time against a single player when you know that you're going to run into Sheiks, Marths, Fox, Captain Falcon?
I feel like that's only applicable if you're like a top, if you're a god though. Like if you're an Armada, obviously you want to have practice against puffs, or if you're a Mango, because you're more than likely going to meet.
But I'm sure Sammy has to worry about. because you've been in those you've been in those echelons, and I'm sure you're looking at the bracket and going, so when does the puff show up?
Oh yeah, when Hungrybox shows up, it's just it's just rough. I don't know what to say. I think he is moving to Georgia though.
Hey,
So,
That is true.
there you go.
So let's just by the end of the next 6 months. Okay, so when Plup started beating he beat him a couple times. It's because they played at locals.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best. Or Cobble and Wizzy have beat Hungrybox in sets before, and I think if he moves here for 6 months, it'll just be a matter of time before I'm he's still better than me, but he's not better to the point where I can't take a game. It's just because there's so much of a knowledge gap, and that knowledge gap will be gone, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months.
Are we gonna when you start giving him a rough time at locals? Are we gonna see the tweets that DruggedFox is the next coming of Jesus? Because I remember the Plup tweets, when Plup started doing well against him, it was Plup is the next coming of Sheik Jesus. Are you that next person?
It might be for Falco, but I'm not sure yet. I don't know if I want to play Falco or Fox yet for him. I'll have to figure that out.
We're running sadly out of. Do you mind sticking around an extra few minutes just so we can sneak in a couple
stick
more?
around a little more.
Excellent.
Yeah, a
excellent.
couple more questions.
Cool. Well, the next one comes from SS Bagman, who wants to know, when will you team with Mewtwo King?
I guess this is a joke because everyone after Evo was like, "Oh, DruggedFox is Mewtwo King. DruggedFox is Mewtwo King." But honestly, I don't think I'll be teaming with Mewtwo King anytime. But it'd be fun to try it sometime. I'm not totally against it or anything, but I don't think it'll happen.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
hopefully
Sad
we'll
day,
see.
boys.
Maybe when your doubles partner misses their flight, you can see Pizza King. Or
Yeah, just this one time.
Next question. Frosting Chain wants to know, how do you balance Smash with a Georgia Tech course load? Do you have any advice on how other college smashers can do the same?
So, funnily enough, during my time at Georgia Tech, I actually didn't end up playing Melee that much because partially of the workload. But I will say that even if the course load's pretty hard, I think it's more about making good use of your Melee time as opposed to how you prioritize. So it's not so much time management between school and Melee. It's more about when you do have the time to play Melee, actually make the most of it.
So it's about optimizing your practice time as opposed to just counting the hours that you're putting into Melee.
Definitely, because inevitably you do have to prioritize school, and some week you might not be able to play Melee at all. Some weeks you might be able to play Melee 2 or 3 days. So whenever you do get the chance, you need to make sure to make the most of it.
Stefano was actually famous, for any StarCraft 2 fans out there, for putting in like a third the practice time that any of his cohorts did, but optimizing it so much that he was able to make it over to the GSL. That didn't work out so well for him, but he still was quite a talented player with the same philosophy.
You never know, he might have match fixed.
Really? Too soon, dude. Too soon. Next question. We will go through a couple more action, and then we'll let you go for the night. NIJP wants to know, why is your username DruggedFox? Both in how did you come up with it, and why you picked that name if you don't use Fox. I think we addressed the second one a little bit, but what does DruggedFox mean?
So most people probably don't know who this person is, but there's a Midwest Falco player who went by the name of Dope. And, I was like 13 years old, and he was one of my favorite players at the time. Back then, we did crew battles. I would go online on Google Video and watch, and he was breaking people's shields with Falco in 2004. Like, that was so cool. So I wanted to have, like, a shout-out to the tag Dope. But I played Fox at the time, so I was like, DruggedFox sounds like kind of cool. Why not? And it stuck. And most people say, it's a pretty good tag.
And I'll ask you the same question I asked before. If you ever get picked up by a big name sponsor, how would you censor it, if you will?
That's a good question.
Prescription Fox,
RX Fox.
Like I said, I'm sort of thinking no one's ever really brought up the fact that my name's not Super Esports, so I'm sort of hoping it slides. But if it didn't slide, I might just go by Sammy or something, because I do introduce myself by my name to everyone. I never use my tag really. Mm-hmm. So I'd either hope it slides or go by my name.
DFox.
I like RX Fox. Like it's like when they changed Dr. PP to PPMD. Like that's.
PPMD is a good one.
I thought that was pretty clever. Final question for the night, and I think this is a great one to end on. Facebook Joe wants to know, what is the number one tip you can give to players of all skill levels?
Of all skill levels.
Yes, all of them.
I guess the biggest one that goes for all levels is that you should be open and listen to absolutely 100% of the advice you get, but you should critically think about all of it for yourself. There's no one in the world, even Armada, who shouldn't at least listen to advice someone has to give them. But even if you're a new player, there is no excuse not to critically think about it also. Don't just take it for what they tell you. Don't just do what they say.
Okay, so I lied a little bit. We do have one more question because the chat wants to know, are you entering Marvel at EVO this year?
Chat wants to know? I don't plan on entering Marvel at EVO this year, but that doesn't mean I can't be convinced, I guess. I do love Marvel. I think it's super, super fun. But, I mean, Melee is definitely a big time sink. So it's hard to do both.
Yeah, you talk about being good at two different Smash games. I can't imagine the time it would take to be EVO good at two completely different fighting games.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, boys. At DruggedFox on Twitter.
DruggedFox.
Please enter Marvel.
Send the tweets,
at Evo.
multiple per day. Follow.
Be committed.
Sammy, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Do you have any shout-outs, anything you'd like to say before we close up shop for the night?
I mean, not really. Thank you for having me. Shout-outs to everyone who talks to me about Smash, everyone who supported me, and I was glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And Jacob, I believe we actually have an announcement about Next week, guests, right?
Yes. Next week we will have the wonderful Smash 4. We've talked about Sheik a lot today, but we'll talk about Smash 4 Sheik. Next week we will have Void, who is a famous Sheik player and lives with Zero and D1 and Sky and gets to practice a lot. So I'm really excited about that.
There you go. I'm excited to hear what it's like to live with Sky Williams. Sky, if you want to come on the show, jacobwolf@daily.com. Feel free to send us a tweet. Well, that's going to do it for us, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. If you liked what you saw, hit that follow button down at the bottom, or if you're feeling particularly generous, and we would appreciate it, hit that new shiny subscribe button that we have. If you want to catch the video after the fact, you want to see it again, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/daily.esports. Over on Facebook, we've got more esports coverage than we know what to do with. Facebook, daily.esports. And then also check us out on Twitter @.esports. Thank you so much for watching the show. I have been Ian Double John Barker. This has been Jacob Braille Wolf. We'll see you next time.